Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be joined by Chance McClain from Heritage Films. Chance, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, thank you so much, brother.
It is our pleasure to have you here. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started?
Oh my goodness. Well, I had been doing film stuff, TV commercials and internet videos back in the time when just anything on any screen, any check that would clear. And a buddy of mine about 10 years ago, he was in radio and he kind of casually said, "Hey man, will you film my dad?" And I immediately was like, "What's wrong with your dad?" And he's like, "Nothing's wrong with my dad, but he's turning 75 and I want my kids to know their papa as he grows older, as they grow older to know about him." So I sat the camera down and sat down with him and just kind of chit-chatted for an afternoon. And then he talked about it on air after it went good. And then about a year later, my dad let us know that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which is terrible. But I asked, because I'd done a couple of these films, I said, "Can we film you?" And he said, "Sure." So a long story, very short. Couple months later, about 2 months later, my radio friend actually sat down with him, filmed it on Tuesday. He passed away on Sunday, and it was at the funeral. They said a year to 18 months, and instead it was 2 months. But literally at the funeral, I was talking to my wife and talking to that buddy who we had both sat down and visited with somebody like that and decided to make a go of it and start a company. And now we've done, like more than 800 films all over the country. We've really found something special. And now Heritage Films.
That is absolutely incredible. I'm sure the longer version could probably fill a book somewhere. So tell me a little bit about, because you just barely scratched the surface of what you guys do. Let's go into a little bit more detail of what that looks like, what the end result looks like. I mean, you're transforming people's lives.
Yeah, you bet. Sure. So there's kind of 2 tiers. I'll do the 80%, the old Pareto principle. 80% of our films are what we call traditional films. And I either spend a day or 2 days with a family. Prior to showing up, they're going to fill out some forms. So I'm going to know a little bit about the person or people that we're filming. We're going to tell them what pictures we want them to gather so that we can integrate them into the film, kind of Ken Burns style, pan and scan pictures as they're talking. Our goal is to make an hour to an hour and a half production after visiting for a day or 2. But what we create, it's what you see on Netflix or HBO docs. It's that elevated quality of film. We try to use all the standard Hollywood practices of in frame, in focus, but where we differ from Hollywood is this isn't a Barbara Walters Q&A. It's very much a heart-to-heart conversation that we have with the subject, talking to them about as far back as they know about their people, from immigrating over Ellis Island stories, or more recent for Cuban family, like literally however far back their family goes that they know about, they share those stories. And eventually we get into their childhood and then school years and growing up and going to college and meeting their wife and starting the business and yada, 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 all the way up till today and into tomorrow as well. Whether they're 60 years old or 100 years old, they still have a tomorrow. And so we ask, well, what's your goals for the future? And by the end of it, there's enough rapport there that I can ask some of those lofty, corny questions that you might not ask at a bar about, hey man, what is important about life? What really matters 50 years from now when you and I are both gone? What's going to matter to your family? And we get to the heart of that stuff too. we turn it into a documentary film.
That sounds, I mean, I got goosebumps. That sounds absolutely incredible. How long does a process like that? I mean, that seems pretty involved. How long does a process like that take from start to finish?
Sure. On the traditional films, our edit process is 6 weeks. I'm sure you can appreciate with the volume of films that we've done, there is a factorization process. There's certainly custom. I don't want anybody to think that we just throw it onto a conveyor belt. There's artists along the way. 6 or 7 people will work on the film throughout it. But we definitely have. I'm an old Army guy. I was in the Army once upon a life, and I've brought some of those practices into my company. So we're very good about being on time. But yeah, over the 6 week edit process, it gets edited. It goes from 5, 6, 7 hours of footage down to 3, down to 4, down to an hour and a half. Gets edited together. Then the last thing it does is a quality control pass, which either I or an associate producer, we're editors as well. So we just make sure somebody that was on scene that day will go through, make sure that's what happened. We'll add our little buzzes and whistles that we feel like make it special for that family. And then we send it to the client. It's still not done. We send it to the client for them to watch because we're human. Some people named Bob spell their name Bobb, and we missed it. So they're able to watch it, put their eyes on it, put their heart on it, and we have an online tool where they can provide feedback for us very simply for us to help land the plane. And then that's when it's done.
That is absolutely incredible. What have been some of the most surprising things along the way? You've been doing this a while.
I have. Yeah, lots of, maybe after about 100 films, every film I ask, what's this, what are the secrets to happiness? What are the secrets to happy marriage? What are the secrets to a successful company? And I was just doing it to try to serve the families. But about 100 films in, I started going, wait a second, I'm getting this advice from all these crazy successful people, at least successful enough that their kids love them and want this product. So I started kind of applying. And I got to tell you, man, it's made me a better dad, better husband, better buddy, better business owner. And I can give you a quick anecdote, and this is the worst example ever because I think it's terrible advice, but I'll share it because I think it's hilarious. We're filming this guy, 90-year-old gentleman, and had a successful, great, wonderful, beautiful life, still healthy as a horse, still jogging, like literally. But I asked, how is it that you're so rosy and sunny? How do you do it? He's like, well, I like to think of my life as like a car trip, a car journey. When he grew up, it was an other side of the track situation where he went to a school that had rich people and poor people, and he wasn't one of the rich people. And so he said, my first car that I got was a 1938 Chevrolet Beater. And for a while, I drove that car. And then, so he goes on and talks through his cars, through his life. But what he said, and the terrible advice was, every time I'd run into a problem, every time something bad would happen, I would take that bad thing and I would just put it in the trunk of my car and then just keep on driving down the road. And I'm like, okay. And then he talked some more, and then, I'd been married for 25 years and some bad things happened and it fell apart. Well, I just took that divorce and I just put it in the trunk of the car. And now it's in the trunk of the car. And I kept driving on. I lost my parents. I put that heartache in the trunk of my car. And I'm waiting for the payoff. There was no payoff. He's 90 years old. And I'm like, so all that stuff is just still in the trunk of your car? He's like, yeah, it's still back there. Dude, I was going to say you need to go talk to somebody. You've got all this baggage with you. But at the same time, he was crazy happy. He was so happy. So I don't know, maybe there's something there.
That is definitely probably some of the most unique advice you could have shared. There are probably things that were even better than that. I am wondering, are these going in a book somewhere? Are you recording them? Like, tell me, are you preserving any of that outside of the family's preservation of it?
Well, I have started. I guess you have to appreciate that what we do is private by nature. We like on that same day, I also have tissues because I'm bawling talking to this man. It's very personal. So I respect people's privacy in that respect. But my own experiences, the only things I've learned, I am absolutely cataloging the lessons, the personal things into a very discombobulated iPhone note where I'll just dictate into it. And I've got, I don't know, a couple hundred pages of life lessons that I've picked up along the way that absolutely need to be put together into something that could be useful to more people.
Yeah, I would love to have a separate conversation about how we turn that into your book. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it really it would be. Going back to the question you said before about advice, things that I've learned, I would say that if your audience wants to distill, how do you become successful? How do you do the discipline and grit are things that come up so much. All these people that have, whether they were born successful and just became more successful, or they're the hard scrabble guy that figured it out. Somewhere at the root of it is time doing something rote that they didn't love, but they kept doing it and they kept getting better and better and better and better. I see that over and over, and I can even look at it in my own life that, yeah, it wasn't until I had to roll up my sleeves and stop bouncing from career to career to career, and really try to become authentically, at least to me, great at something. And the thing that I chose to be great at was interviewing people. I feel awkward with you, Seth, because I'm used to being the one talking, so I never know quite when I'm supposed to stop.
You're doing great. So how does it work? Do these people have to be local to you? Are they flying out a film crew? Is this remote on Zoom in today's day and age? How does that part work?
Yeah, we've had lots of people want to do the Zoom thing, but quality, I'm a big Walt Disney fan. The man, yeah, an absolute hero of mine, and quality came before everything. And so that's something that's paramount to me. We always want it to be, like I said, HBO docs quality. I want this sucker to look fantastic. As well as, 50 years from now, I want them to be watching these. So it needs to look as good as it can in 2025 or whenever we record it. Boy, I forgot the question. Where was I going?
It was it sounds like you're not a fan of the remote version.
No, I'm not. We have absolutely incorporated remote into it, and we have a pretty deft way to do that, as long as a preponderance of the film is the in-person way that we do it. So yeah, we travel all over the country doing these films. I'm flying to Minnesota tomorrow morning, and I'm based out of Houston. It's part of it, and we bring our own crew, but we've got it tightened down. I'll share something funny. When I started this company, I wanted the Hollywood experience. It was like we bring a 5-man crew. We're piling in their living room. There's people, there's lights, there's dudes with boom poles and all this stuff, and Grandma's sitting there just kind of nervous a little bit. And so over the years, we've whittled it down to just a crew of 2 or 3 people. And so the travel, what I tell everybody is we have to fly somewhere to travel. We're not getting fat on the travel. We're getting there and we're getting home. We have so that's the answer. We go to them wherever, whenever.
Awesome. And then you mentioned it could take, 6 weeks plus for a finished product. How long are you there actually shooting?
Yeah, there's one, like on our traditional, there's 1 or 2 day, which means, you show up at 9 or 10 in the morning and you could leave anywhere from 3 to 6 p.m. We have to be sensitive of people, take plenty breaks, break for lunch. But my goal is to visit with them for a single person film for about 3 to 4 hours, and for a couple's film about 4 to 5.5 hours, to turn that into an hour to an hour and a half movie. The other side of our business is the non-traditional films. We call them signature films, which we can literally do anything. We have a project that we're in the middle of now that's sending us to Mumbai, Dubai, Antwerp, and London. So there's certain people, but at the root of it, man, at the root of it is a guy who's been clearly very successful in life that loves his dad. He loves his dad so much, and he feels like this is the way that I can get my dad's stories for my kids and my future grandkids. So yeah, there's ones where instead of just visiting with dad, we'll visit with dad and his business partners and his siblings and my client themselves. About a third of ours are the person themselves. They call up and they're like, yeah, I know normally it's the kids and grandkids that call you, but man, I kind of think I got a story to share with my family. But I'm like, dude, no problem. We call those first person films, and lots and lots and lots of those too.
That is absolutely incredible. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Sitting down and talking to people. My goal is I want them to forget that there are cameras, and I sure the hell forget. I cry, I laugh, I step on them. It turns into a conversation, and I live for it. I absolutely live. I got a comment, somebody after, we send a little thing after, hey, fill out how the experience go. And a guy said that his dad told him that, he said, when Chance showed up, it didn't even feel like some film producer was there. It felt like a buddy that I hadn't seen in 25 was there, and we were reminiscing. I'm like, boom! That's what I want to hear, man.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable, and we greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our viewers and listeners who want to learn more, where is the best place for them to go?
yourheritagefilm.com. Just pop by, say hello. I love what I do. I'm proud of what we do, and I love to meet families and try to make something that you'll love, and your kids will. I'll tell you this: we make movies, but what we're really doing, and people don't even know this when they call us. They don't know this. They think, I love my mom. I want her stories forever. What they really want, man, they want the values of the generation before to go through them and into their kids. That's what's really happening in a heritage film. It's a transfer of values, that time erodes these things, and we're able to just boom, put it in a movie.
That is amazing. Well, this has been Seth Greene with Chance McClain. Chance, thanks again for joining us.
Seth, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.